G'day guys, thanks for tuning in. My name's Aura Party, and today I want to have a quick look at Ragefire Chasm Dungeon, or better known as RFC. This is a very low level horde side dungeon that you can jump into from about level 13, and you don't really want to do about after level 18. This is just due to the XP rate falling off at the higher levels. Now the footage that you're seeing here is me on my Shaman. And like I'd said in my previous video, I had never played Horde before, so naturally this is my first time ever doing the classic version of the dungeon. My previous experience with RFC is blasting fully decked ults in heirlooms in LFG, so this is essentially my first run through of this dungeon, and it's an entirely new experience for me. And yes, I know it's a 15-year-old game, but I'd never done one of the easiest dungeons. Alright, let's talk about the dungeon itself. The layout of RFC is like you're going down into a volcano as it twists and it turns. It has lava surrounding you on either side. However, it is still quite a simple layout, unlike the retail version, which in comparison is just a straight path that you follow. Alright, let's talk about the dungeon itself. The layout of RFC is like you're going down into a volcano as it's twisting and turning. It has multiple paths going off in each direction. There's lava around you all the time. However, it is still quite a simple layout. Now according to Atlas Loot, there are only two bosses in this dungeon. Targaman the Hungerer and Jurgosh the Invoker. Notably however, there are two other bosses if you go for a little wander, and that's Ogleflint and Basilan. Unfortunately, no blue items drop in this dungeon, only greens off the bosses. I assume this is the case due to the dungeon being so low, and Blizz didn't want people spamming them at such low levels and get good gear to continue on leveling with. Overall, the dungeon itself is quite easy. There are no mobs with anything tricky about them to say, like the dead mines, when you have AoE spells, fleeing mobs, and tricky areas where you could face pull a million mobs at one time. Personally, I really enjoyed my time in this dungeon. I think it's actually quite an interesting time with such low levels in a group and fighting elites and things like that. Another thing I noticed too in the dungeon, because it was so level, that the tank really needed time to build the aggro on the mobs. So you might see me in the footage, I'm just sitting there waiting for the few swings of the warrior's sword, or just waiting. And then it's situations like that, if I crit, there's a good chance that I'll pull aggro, which is, as someone who's made a healer my entire life and never really DPS'd, I think it's actually quite interesting. And I do understand why, tanks are complaining about mages and things like that, pulling aggro off them straight away. Now on that note, we're going to wrap up the video there, guys. Thank you very much for sticking around. Don't forget you can always catch me at twitch.tv/auraparty. I stream there as much as possible. Like and subscribe, any support is greatly appreciated. And sound off in the comments, what's your favourite classic dungeon? And are you healing, tanking or DPSing, and which do you find the most fun? Thanks very much. Cheers.